Let's start. This is Sai Fanindra from SQL School, and over 16 years of technical expertise, completely into Microsoft and Azure technologies. I assure you, practice-oriented lectures, practice-oriented classes, I must say KT sessions, knowledge transfer sessions on very useful and powerful ever in our resume, DevOps, Azure DevOps. A common cream in everyone's resume cake. It's a common cream now in every resume. Let's understand carefully what is DevOps for first few classes and slowly move on to Azure DevOps, our actual course. And I assure you, complete practice-oriented lectures. There are certain prerequisites for this course on a friendly note, so that we get the best out of the classes. Come on, let's get started now. Let's go slowly, step by step. And we are into box number on my screen. Let me just change my screen here. Box number 11. Any prior experience on any Microsoft or non-Microsoft technology is fine to step into Azure DevOps. We'll start right from the basics of Azure, basics of DevOps, then combine together. We'll do it slowly, step by step. And knowledge on SQL Server basics is an added advantage because in our course we have DevOps Service, Azure DevOps Server. The second part of the coin, the second portion, the other side of the coin, Azure DevOps Server sits on top of SQL Server. So there lies communication. Let's understand what is development, what is operations, and why we need DevOps, what made the industry to go into DevOps, and why or how the Azure DevOps is in the limelight in the recent past. For more than 1 year, it's almost last 1.5 years in the limelight. Yes, let's understand carefully step by step. And finally, we need to also get into our lengthy course curriculum. We need to get into the lengthy course curriculum to understand what is included right from the basics till the Azure DevOps Server management and automation activities. Total of 18 chapters. Come on, let's get started with what is DevOps, slowly, step by step. So here we go. I assume we are very new and we'll start it slowly, step by step now. I'll just save this file so that you would be able to get it accessed after the class. Yes. So agenda. Let's understand what is SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle. We need to understand it first today. Then in this process, what is dev and what is operations and what is DevOps. Then we need to add Azure so that we can happily continue with what is Azure DevOps. And then from the next class, we need to start implementing the things slowly, step by step. So after understanding what is Azure DevOps, we'll continue with our course plan. And number 8, the certification orientation plan. because getting Azure certified is equally important. Yes, our course will definitely help us in Azure DevOps certification. We'll start from the scratch. Let's see what is SDLC. Yes, here we go. Software Development Lifecycle. The software development lifecycle. What does it mean? Yes, for any software development, it involves multiple entities, multiple phases. Here we go. Development, integrations, testing, monitoring, and review, feedback, conclusions, etc. in general. Yes, here we go. This is a actual shaped, or we must say a process which is generally in approach for many years in the recent past, for more than a decade. But old way, the traditional way of SDLC is bit different. Yes, in traditional SDLC, software development lifecycle model, we have something called waterfall method. This one-way traffic. Software requirement specifications to software design, implementation, testing, and maintenance. Here we go. From there comes the concept of a more easy to implement, more user-friendly environment in this way. Yes, a circle. There it is one-way traffic, here it's like a circle. Yes, to make it clear and simple, software development lifecycle involves phase 1 planning. Technically we call it SRS. We'll understand what is SRS, software requirement specification documents, and the process involved over there next. For now, planning phase. Phase 2 would be into design and coding phase. Phase 3 would be into testing, and phase 4 would be into the actual deployment activities. Build, of course, build comes in coding as well. So simply say deployment activities. So these phases also include something called builds, releases, etc. Now here we go. Different phases. So different teams would be involved. What does development team do? Here we go. Development team would be involved in understanding the requirements from application owners. Once they understand the requirement, then comes the actual software design. And of course, even the implementation activities as well, say coding activities. And involved in testing activity. Sometimes there can be a dedicated test team as well. We have something called unit testing, system testing, etc. And what does operation team will do? They perform all the maintenance activities, deployments, and monitoring and maintenance activities. Now, how to bridge the gap between these two? Developer team offshore, operations team maybe some third party or vendor or on site. Then how do we bridge the gap between? Yes, here it is. What is DevOps? Let's see. Before we understand what is DevOps, in age-old waterfall method, the SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle, in the waterfall method, we used to have a lot of gaps, or simply say communication gaps, right? And risks with respect to the product release across different teams. It can be dev or test or even UAT or the unit or the user acceptance testing or the prod team, the production teams. Then came something called as Agile. Here it is, the Software Development Lifecycle, SDLC, in Agile method. There are some new technical terms slowly one by one. Let's stay tuned. What does Agile means? Yes, simple and straight. The main idea behind Agile is to iterate the waterfall method, to have some iterations, repetitions within the waterfall method, making it a cycle. Here we go. Lesser communication gap. Simply say the application owners and the development testing teams, well, coordinate each other and design the product carefully as per the requirement. And there we are stopped. I mean to say, in SDLC, it's like app owner at one side and dev team at one side. Generally, test team would be nearby to the dev team in general, and production team separately. In Agile, it is something like this. The app owners and the dev team would happily communicate, but isolated from the operations, the production and operations, monitoring, managing activities. Still, the gap is not addressed in Agile. Yes, in our course, you'll understand more about it. There are a lot of other technical terms and process we need to learn, either towards our job or even towards our certification. We need it just to get some idea, some small demo kind of activity. Now here we go. Then how to address this gap as well? Yes, there came the concept of the software development life cycle with DevOps method. In DevOps method, yes, there is nice integration, communication with anyone to everyone in the entire software life cycle. Advantage of Agile, minimal planning. Advantage of DevOps, nice communication and fruitful deliveries, commitment and delivering with commitment. Here it is. The DevOps is mainly designed over here, this particular place. Development and operation team. Development on the left, operations on the right. With this information, now how we can define DevOps? Let's see. Well, we'll talk about more differences between Agile and DevOps. And in fact, we require them because few companies who are right now in Agile, they would like to move to DevOps. It's part of our course. We'll understand slowly how to get these kind of integrations. So for that reason, we need to have some differences as well. We'll do it. For our short introduction purpose, let's define what is DevOps. Well, DevOps is a process. We say culture or a process. It brings the development and operations team members into a common communication stage. Yes, the DevOps also includes the infrastructure team members as well. Infrastructure team, test teams, and system admins, and even the data engineers who are more into ETL, security, optimizations, etc. And the analysts, Azure Analytics. Anyone, everyone, simple, into a single roof of communication. Yes, we call them as DevOps engineers. The actual job role in LinkedIn and other common social platforms, we see DevOps engineers, we call them. So you are a DevOps engineer, I am a DevOps engineer. You may be a developer, I may be a tester. It's a common activity. Now what we actually do in DevOps? Yes, as I was mentioning a few minutes back, it's all about how we coordinate and communicate with each other. It's all about how to ensure better delivery or faster, streamlined delivery of our product. So what does it actually means? Yes, to get some idea, yes. Let me just give you a small information on the screen. Something like this. Yep, this is more into Azure DevOps. Let me give you some regular DevOps activities. More into Azure DevOps. Let me give you some regular DevOps activity here on my screen. So plan, right? Starting at the plan. Then comes code, build, test. Then comes release, deployment, operations, and monitoring activities. Again, it may involve additional planning activities as well. The cycle may continue until the product is completely into customer hands. Well, the first line, the first journey is more important, of course. It's all about communication between the planning team, the coding developers, the builds, the tests. It will be automation testing or manual testing. Releases, different release options, release tools are there, deployment tools, operations, monitoring tools, etc. It's all about how to communicate each other in a useful way, is what DevOps means. Now, with this information, what does DevOps actually include? DevOps cycle includes. Yes, DevOps cycle includes coding, building, test, release, deploy, operate, monitor, and again plan. In fact, the planning comes first and last. Plan for the next steps and again reassess the plan of the previous steps to identify the bugs if any. And again continue for coding, building, etc. So build is more into development activities. The central core from the dev team, then tests, separate tools, and releases, development, and we have the deployment, then operations, monitoring, activities. So in our course, we need to understand these concepts carefully one by one. Now here is a problem. Here there is a small problem here. Back to our notes. I'll mail you all these notes anyway. Let's stay tuned. A small problem in regular DevOps. Here it is. The DevOps life cycle. It includes number one, build operation. It includes number one, build operation. And apart from build operation, we have test operations. Yes, we have code, then number two, build, next number three, test, and every step involves its own planning. Okay, every step involves its own planning. Release, or we have deploy, or we have operations, and the main problem we are understanding now in regular DevOps, the DevOps process, operate, monitor, 7 different steps. Planning comes everywhere. I'll say here, planning is common across all phases of the lifecycle implementation. Coding, it involves developers, and this involves certain tools. This regular development activities, it involves certain tools. Again, build involves certain tools and techniques, and test involves some more tools, like for example we say Selenium or other tools. Let's take this way. For example, you say coding activities. We have Visual Studio, and something called as Jira or Git, etc. Build. Yes, for build, in regular DevOps we have something called Maven, and we have something called as Gradle, etc. These are all the different tools. Test, Selenium, or for example JUnit, etc. These are all the different tools we have in testing environment. Release, we have something called Bamboo, and exactly we have something called Jenkins, yes, Jenkins, etc. In our course we have this in Azure environment. Deploy, very famous deployment environment, Puppet. We have something called Chef, etc. Other things like we have something called SaltStack and Ansible, etc. we have. And operations, the regular operation activities, it's completely into a process orientation that also requires analytics. The operations involves analytics tools. And monitor, again for monitoring we have something called as New Relic, and we have something called Splunk. Again here also we have analytic tools, again additional analytic tools. Now instead of working with different tools and different environments, and that may again require additional manpower, more number of professionals to perform all these activities, and again what's the guarantee that there is communication issues between the team members again, right? So there comes Azure DevOps. Yes, to reduce the number of tools with the same life cycle activities. Process is same, journey is same, but we need not have any break journey, I mean to say. A non-stop journey is what DevOps means. Yes, same source, same destination, but a non-stop journey, automation activity, a scheduled activity. Yes, here we go. Let's understand what is Azure DevOps. Before that, Azure, a Microsoft cloud platform. A Microsoft cloud platform. Yes, can be used to store, operate, and at the same time work with any data or application. When we say work with application, it can be development of the application or design, coding, testing, building, anything it can be. No exceptions. Very vast environment. For example, on my screen, yes, we have the Azure environment, something like this. And we can have some storage operations, network operations, or it can be process operations like DevOps. In our course, we'll be understanding something called as the DevOps starters and DevOps managed service, etc. Or Chef Automate, which is what actually I was talking about here in my notes for deployment activities. So in Azure, we need not worry with so many environments or tools. Just minimize them. List is minimized. List is made simplified. Right? So here we go. When it comes to the Azure DevOps, it is there. It's not new. It is there. Formerly known as the Visual Studio Team System. We call it as VSTS. Yes, here it is. And now we call it as DevOps. What we do here? Easy planning and easy management and easy control on the source code, test cases, and the deliverables, actual deliverables, the project deliverables. And in fact, most of the companies are now into the Azure DevOps mainly because it is comparatively cheaper and easy to use, easy to implement, and easy to integrate with existing SDLC, the software development lifecycle, SDLC mechanisms. It can be either agile or traditional DevOps, or it can be anything. There are some third-party apps as well. But Azure DevOps is comparatively cheaper and more powerful. What it actually contains? Yes, this Azure DevOps contains few specific components that we need to have knowledge on. On my screen now, we have DevOps service, completely cloud, and DevOps server that uses SQL Server on premise. Our course includes both. And the same process, right? The same process, the same activities, but we have 5 different Azure components or 5 different services that will take care of all these activities. In general, in regular DevOps, there are 30 plus tools involved. Regular DevOps. Azure DevOps, you combine everything into 5 easy to integrate, easy to communicate activities, just like MS Office. Assume you have OneDrive account or Google Drive account, you can have Excel, Doc, or it can be even Outlook, etc. You can integrate them together. The same way here, it's a pack of 5 nice colorful services forms Azure DevOps. Just to get some idea what we do in each of them. Yes, here we go. We have something called Azure boards. It's more into monitoring activities. Boards, dashboards, it's actually for dashboards, creating new task items, test cases, etc. Repo means repository. Board is like a dashboard, remember? We're going to practice them in more detail one by one to get some idea. Repos, repository, to store all the source code. Azure pipelines, it's mainly we say build activities. Whatever code available in the reports can be again built, perform the actual operations, test plans. We have got dev testing and UAT or user acceptance testing and production testing. Dev to UAT, UAT to production, testing at every level will be taken care by test plans. And we have something called Azure artifacts, wherein here we need to specify the dependencies. What first, what next. The logic implementation controller would be in artifacts. So the end-to-end implementation and the integration activities, we say continuous integration, continuous delivery, those concepts are easily implemented in Azure DevOps. With this information, so here we go back to our notes. It includes number 1, the Azure boards. It's more into dashboards and monitoring. We are just making it simple and straight. And we have Azure repos, the repository, the source code repository, secured repository to your source code, and Azure pipelines. These pipelines are mainly for build and release control. We'll take them with examples. Number 4, we have Azure test plans for manual as well as automation testing. And we have number 5, Azure artifacts. It's mainly for the dependency control. So our course includes mainly 5 and 6. We'll start from the basics of Azure, slowly get into Azure DevOps. In this process, we need to also understand what these tools will do to implement the lifecycle. It's automated. It's something like this. I have an Excel file, I upload to Google Drive, and I directly perform operations on the Excel file in the Google Drive. Means we are getting the MS Office operations automatically. The same thing here. We are going to perform activities in an automation environment called Azure DevOps. Now, with this information, we understood what is DevOps, what is Azure, and what is Azure DevOps. With this, let's get into the final part, our course curriculum. Yes, coming to our course plan. It's completely into 3 different modules. Module 1, 6 hours. We'll start with the DevOps basics. In fact, we'll be starting with the SDLC basics and DevOps basics. And from there, we need to understand about the concept of Azure basics, And from there, the Azure DevOps basics. We'll be taking all the basic activities here. Module 2 would be for next 6 hours. We'll understand the implementation of DevOps services. What are the DevOps services? Here it is. The 5 services are there, right? 5 services and integration of all these together. DevOps services. All 5 services to be taken in great detail, one by one. And module 3 would be about, for another 6 hours, it includes, so this includes Azure DevOps. So Azure boards, I'll put this way, repos, pipelines, and test plans, and artifacts. Here we'll talk about the continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous operations, continuous monitoring activities. Then comes next third module. In third module, we'll be understanding about the integration of above services, above 5 services, and Azure DevOps in Azure portal. There are different ways to implement DevOps. We need to understand from dev.azure.com as well as portal.azure.com. There are 2 different environments. And here comes the concept of Kubernetes and other containers. And from there we'll go for the DevOps server. And then we'll be taking an implementation environment for your resume, like a mini project kind of thing for our resume. We'll be taking one web application. We'll understand how it has to be designed, how it has to be hosted, and how to implement DevOps in web applications. We'll do that way to get more hands-on in our course. So let's make our course completely into practice-based. In fact, I must say like this, the demo is the only theoretical part for us. We'll go slowly with example-based understanding one by one. And prerequisites, as I was mentioning at the starting of the class, get some basic idea on SQL Server to understand DevOps Server towards end of the course. So by end of the course, get some basics of SQL, so really good for us. With this, we'll stop for now. Any clarifications or questions, please do let me know, and glad to assist you further.